Hi everyone, welcome back to the Walk in History podcast. I'm Utkarsh.
Namaste, Sumedha from Geneva. A long time since we've seen you, but don't worry, we're always working behind the scenes. Right now, today, I've waded through I don't know how many books to get you the podcast that we're doing today. So, will you do the honors, Utkarsh?
It's a very unusual podcast because typically when you have a podcast, you have people talking about a topic that they either know a lot about or they're very passionate about,
Like the one on music and
like the one on
guitar.
music,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
music
Yes,
and Indian music.
yes.
Today, we are talking about something that the details of which we know very little about, and I
But
wouldn't say,
But we are a history podcast. So we know the
and
history of this very well. We
we know
don't
the
know the
history of it. Well,
rules. Yeah, we don't know the rules. Or if you want to play this game with us, you'll probably lose ignominiously.
no, we will
But we
lose.
know the history.
We won't even know how to begin.
No,
All
but
right.
we know the history. And remember, we're a history podcast.
Yes. And today's topic is chess.
Chess. And why chess? So again, let me tell you that this is something I kind of forced on Utkarsh, who says he has very limited interest in chess, but you see, he has an interest in history. So that's why we're doing this about the history of chess.
Hmm.
I am no chess player. I mean, I played it when I was a child, but I am no chess player. So I have no technical knowledge about chess, but about the history of chess and how interestingly complicated it is. Yes, I do
Hmm.
have a lot of information
And
on that.
and I believe as we go through this episode, you will realize how it is a perfect example of the conversation that needs to be had in context of what we are trying to do with the Arc Indian History podcast. So while
Yes,
chess by itself may not be of significant interest to us, the story of chess
exactly.
and where and how it is thought of today is indeed very critical to what we
Yes,
want to do here.
yes, yes, indeed. You know, it is one of India's gifts to the world. And this gift happened so long in the past that it's difficult to tease out each of the strands. But like I said, I have waded through dozens of books and I have tried to tease out these strands for you. But I do want to tell everyone, Utkarsh, why my interest in chess was suddenly, the history of chess was suddenly, um, why did it suddenly come up? So that was obviously because of D. Gukesh. Now, even people who do not care about chess will know that D. Gukesh is the current 18-year-old young boy who is the fight world champion. And Utkarsh, you should have been interested because this whole thing happened in Singapore.
Yes,
The final match happened in Singapore.
that's how I heard of it actually.
Yes, yes. So, just to start with, then I'm going to share a picture of this chess prodigy. I think we should take a look at him. He is an 18-year-old, remember, who is the current reigning chess champion. So, can you see this young boy with a chess set?
Absolutely.
I'm trying to give you an even better view, but no, this view is the same. So this is the young boy who became the fight champion. I think it was last year, and it was very exciting. It was extremely exciting for me. I don't understand chess all that well, but I did take a look at the match as it was progressing, and there was a very, very stupid mistake made by his opponent, and then that was the time when he suddenly became the champion and the look on his face and all the excitement. So, that kind of hooked me onto chess. What else happened? Before this, the Indian team actually won the World Chess Olympiad. And there is also a young woman called Koneru Hampi, who is the rapid chess champion of India. So in 2022, 23, 24, India has been doing really well on the chess scene. Before this, of course, we've all heard of Vishwanathan Anand. He's one of the most famous chess players from India. We've all heard of Vishwanathan Anand. But what's happened that we suddenly have this whole series of people, groups of people doing really well. So, currently we have 85 grandmasters, 124 international masters, of which 23 are women, just from India. So that's actually a huge number. Now, this kind of struck off a, a thought process in me. Chess is said to have originated in India. So what happened from what should have been the center of chess in the world if the game originated here? Why is there such a big blank for at least a few hundreds of years, even if not thousands, or a few hundreds of years? What happened? What went wrong? And then, I started reading up on chess, and then there was something even more interesting. India is not the place where chess originated, apparently. It's Persia, it's China, it's Greece. So, as usual, we have to do a bit of, peeling the onion. Don't peel it too much, otherwise, nothing will remain in the end. But we do have to peel off a few layers to see what's there in the center. Again, Utkarsh, to make things a little interesting, I want to share something else. And I'm going to ask you to guess what that is.
Is it something I'm going to see?
Yes, it's something you're going to see.
Okay, okay.
And I'll try and hide the. Don't read it. Okay, just take a look at it. Do not
Okay.
read what is written.
Okay, I'll try my best.
Yes, no
I'll
cheating.
try my. I mean, if something's in front of me, you get read. So I'll try my
No,
best.
no reading. No reading.
That goes for the audience as well. Don't read.
Yes, audience, no
Just
reading. And you guys can guess. What is this? What
it's a
is
chess set,
this? It's a chess set. Yes. Well, since we are
and I
discussing
can't read
chess,
it because it's so small on my screen. I could read anything anyway.
excellent. Very good. Very good. So that's automatically you can't cheat. So where do
Yes,
you think, take a wild guess, Utkarsh, how old do you think this chess set is?
2,500. No, 3,500
3,500 what?
years from now, from earlier, from today.
Okay, so you're saying 3,500
So
BP.
1500 BC, the famous date that we all love.
Okay. Well, you've kind of crept towards it, but it's actually even older. So I don't know whether people can read it now, but this has been dated to 2,500 BC. That's
Wow,
2,500 BC. So that's actually,
4,500 years ago.
yes. And where was it found? It was found in Lothal. Where is Lothal? Lothal is in Gujarat. It's one of the Sindhu Saraswati civilization's
Hmm.
biggest remains have been found over there. Lothal has a lot of things to its credit. It has the oldest seaport in the world. It also
Hmm.
has this oldest chess set, and it has warehouses and factory signs. So it
Hmm.
has the longest inscription of Indus signs found anywhere. You do know that Indus signs are very small. You find two or three characters, four, five characters.
Hmm. Hmm.
The longest one has been found here. So Lothal is an object of interest in and of itself. But today, right now, this one is from Lothal, and I want to show you another one, which is from Mohenjo-daro. You know Mohenjo-daro? Look at
Yep,
this
of
one.
course.
So look at this one. Maybe let me make it a bit bigger if I can. Can you see this one? Looking
Yep,
very
I can see
similar,
it. Yeah.
looking very familiar, and very similar to the one in Lothal. So
Hmm.
this one was found in Mohenjo-daro and of
Hmm.
around the same vintage. So this is, in a way, this tells you that to say that no, Persia, ninth century, China, 7th century of the present common era is the
Hmm.
time where chess actually originated, well, doesn't make sense. But
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
happened? Why did all these things, why did all these start off as theories which were pretty important?
Hmm. Hmm.
So, you told me when we were talking earlier that you are interested in the origin of chess. So tell me
Yeah.
just off the top of your head, did you know where it originated? Did you have any ideas about it?
No, I always assumed that it originated in India. I don't know why. I have no clue. I don't think I was taught it anywhere. It was just a natural assumption. Maybe a bias
Okay.
on my own side. I never.
Okay.
And I was, and I think there are one of the fables or one of the stories has it right. Somebody wanted 1 grain of rice for
Yes,
each each
yes,
uh,
yes.
each of the
Each of
64
the no, so you put one
64
grain of
squares.
rice on the first
Then
one and
two,
then keep
then
doubling it.
two,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and
Until you
then
reach 64. So 2 to the
which
power
is
64 is
which is
something which,
tremendously large.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
maybe
no
that's the reason
king.
why. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why I thought it was all originally from India.
Yes, yes. So, this story has been adapted to Persian circumstances. This story has been adapted to many different circumstances. And the fact that
Hmm.
this story starts with India sometimes is lost. But I'm glad that some part of your education did actually give you this story and this theory.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, it would be good to understand how all this happened. Now, chess. It's a tremendously popular game. There is
Hmm.
literally no part of the world where chess is not played. It's played
Hmm.
everywhere and everyone loves it and everyone is interested in it. So, in the 17th, 18th century, 19th century, Europeans, as usual, they try to get to the bottom of everything. We will know
Hmm.
everything there is to know about
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
our
Hmm.
domains. So, they try to
Hmm.
get to the bottom of it and try to see, look at the history of chess. Now, it is tremendously complicated because
Hmm.
of the fact that chess went everywhere and it changed, it evolved, it has
Hmm.
local stories about itself. So it's not very easy to pinpoint the exact linear evolution, the exact chronology is extremely difficult to piece together. And normally, when I'm talking to you about history and about old things, I keep saying, oh
Hmm.
my God, there isn't enough evidence and I wish I had more.
Hmm.
Here we have
Hmm.
too much evidence.
Okay.
There is so much evidence that the real challenge is in piecing it together to make sense and to not let the plethora of evidence actually act as a disadvantage. That there's so much
Hmm.
information that you can't make sense of it.
Hmm.
So, what is chess called in not in English but in an Indian language, or that it's not really an
Shatranj.
Indian? Yes, yes, Shatranj. So,
This even I
Shatranj,
know.
yes. So, Shatranj is the Persian name for it, and
Okay.
that is the one which became very popular, and it was known throughout wherever it went through variations on this Shatranj. This word
Hmm.
Shatranj itself, as we'll come to later, comes from the
Hmm.
Sanskrit word Chaturang.
Okay.
So that Chaturang, there's no cha in Persian, so that obviously
Hmm.
becomes sha. So
Sure.
from yeah,
Hmm.
so from Chaturang it becomes Shatranj.
Hmm.
The phonetics is changed as per
Hmm.
the phonetics of the particular language.
Hmm.
So the two strongest claims for the origin of chess are in terms of Persia and China. So what do
Okay.
people say? Why is it so? Because some of the earliest references earlier, not today because new things have come to
Hmm.
light,
Hmm.
were
Hmm.
found in Persian, and they were found in let us say somewhere around the 6th century.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
naturally, if you have manuals of Shatranj in the 6th century in Persian, and then
Hmm.
later once the Arabs defeated the Persians, then you
Hmm.
have so many Arabic manuals and Arabic
Hmm.
fathers of chess, etc. So it was taken to be well, quite pretty normal that yes, this is so. But what is the actual story of Shatranj if you read those
Hmm.
manuals? The first
Hmm.
one, the first reference is that chess has been introduced from India to Persia. Please note, they record themselves that chess was
Okay.
introduced from India in the reign of Khusro I Anushirvan. He was somewhere in the 6th century, and he was the Persian king who received
Hmm.
the first Indian chess set.
Okay.
I'm going to tie this up to the people who were there in India at the time and from where he would have got it, but
Hmm.
just a little bit more. This is in a book which has a very complicated name. Let me just give it to you. It is the Karnamak e Aratakshatra e Papakan. So this is basically it is the story of the king of that time, and it's
Hmm.
there. that he received this chess set.
mm, mm.
Now, if this was happening in the 6th century, what was happening in India at the time? And can we really tie the two things up? Actually, we can. At that
Okay.
time in India, in northern India especially, this was this Punya Bhuti dynasty. Sorry, the Pushyabhuti dynasty. And Pushyabhuti dynasty, the king at the time, were Rajyavardhan and his son Harshvardhan. Now,
Okay.
Rajyavardhan and Harshvardhan especially, are closely associated with chess. They used to rule in Kannauj,
Mm,
and there was a court poet called Banbhat, and he wrote a story of the king Harsha, which he called
mm,
Harsha Charit. So the first detailed exposition of chess in India, a detailed one, remember, I'll tell you about other shorter ones earlier, comes from
mm,
this particular creation, this particular Harsha Charit by Banbhat.
mm,
So
mm.
there's a proper description of the board, of the chess pieces, sets, everything. So you see, that was very popular in Kannauj. And at this time, this king was the paramount king in India, and he sent out embassies to many places, including
Mm,
China, which I'll come to later. He also sent embassies to China. So you see, there was direct contact at this time between this chess capital of India. Kannauj was then the chess capital of India, between the chess
mm,
capital and China. And there is a recording in this book, in the book about chess. So for that, I have to refer to yet another person. He is the father of chess in Persia and in the Arab lands. What is his name is? What is his name? It is Al-Adli al-Rumi. He is called the father of chess. Now he wrote a book called Kitabash Atranj in about the 9th century, 840. That was the first very detailed manual of chess with all the pieces, their description,
And
how to play.
is this similar to the chess rules that we know today, or is it different?
Similar.
Okay.
I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but in general, you can feel that it is similar. You
Yeah.
can say that it is the prototype of chess as it is played today.
Understand.
So
Okay.
which is why it's so important, which is why
Mm,
it was thought that okay, this must be the person who started it, because you see there's so many similarities, and you can although there have been many evolutions, Utkarsh, which I will tell you about, but you can definitely say, and he described moves and he described games, etc., etc. So obviously, then this is the guy who invented chess. This is the guy who knows chess. But unfortunately, this particular book, the Kitab Shatranj, has been lost. But do not despair, because there were many other scholars who took references from this book and put it in their own books. So, what do we learn from there? That he himself says that Chaturang from India was introduced into Persia. And he says there were three things that India gave to Arabia, gave to Persia. One was Shatranj, the second was the Katha Sarit Sagar. Remember this story I keep referring to, this story cluster, Katha Sarit Sagar, Bad Kaha. It is a story cluster from which you can get, things like Aesop's fables belong to this, Panchtantra belongs to this, Vetal, Vikram and Vetal belong to this. So it went across the world. Here you have one very direct reference that the Katha Sarit Sagar was given to the Persians as the Kalila wa Dimma. And Sindbad the Sailor, Utkarsh, and Arabian
yes,
Nights.
of course.
So all these are from the Katha Sarit Sagar, the Arabian Nights, Sindbad the Sailor, and it was known as the Kalila wa Dimma in Persia. What was the
Mm.
third thing? Please, one guess. What was the third very important thing?
Math,
Yes,
alphabet,
numerals.
numerals.
Numerals, yeah.
Mm.
Zero and numerals. So he
Yes.
says this zero and the nine ciphers apart from that, which allow us to
Mm,
do these calculations. These
mm,
three are wonders of India, and they have
mm,
been introduced into Persia.
mm,
And there are many stories about who came. This story is repeated over here, Utkarsh. The board and the rice story, that's also repeated over here. Because there was
mm,
somebody one wise man from India who asked the Persian king this question. So
mm,
I would say that it seems fairly clear that the father of chess himself says in his own words that it
mm,
was received by Persia from India at this particular time. And then they took it over and they loved the game and they made it Chaturang, and they did a lot of work on it.
Mhm.
Some of the pieces changed, etc., etc. But then, with the passage of time, somehow this fact that somebody has mentioned that they got this game from India was obliterated, either intentionally or just, it's the passage of time. Or
Mhm.
there was this idea by the colonial powers that whatever was there in India was because of the Islamic invasion. Because they thought that they had beaten the, Muslim rulers of India, and now they are the
Mhm.
rulers of India. So they always wanted to show that the people who we had beaten were very great people, but look at us, we are even greater than them. So the fact that India had thousands of years of a different past before the Islamic invasion somehow never crossed their mind. And Utkarsh, this is true of numerals. They were called Arabic numerals till very recently. We talked about sitar. I mean, you can talk about so many things. Just, there is this design called paisley. Are you familiar with it?
Uh, let's just say more than familiar.
Oh, okay. Lots of paisley here. Oh, I remember seeing that guitar of yours. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
So,
Anyways.
Paisley is a place in Scotland. So the name of that, it looks like a mango. It's a little raw mango. So the name of the place, Paisley, became the name of that little design. And before that, they said, no, it comes from Persia. It's somebody pecking at a fruit, or it's the tree of life, XYZ. The actual beginnings of that are in the hoary past in India, because mango is a very common and much beloved fruit in India. And this kachi keri, the raw mango, was used as a design very normally and naturally. But through this sleight of hand or weight of history or sands of time, that also has become Persian. So you'll find this people listening to the VAK podcast, and we are trying to peel open remove certain curtains which are there in front of us, and that is why this history of chess, because it's in the same what can I say, succession of events which obliterate the history of India, which is kind of remove it and attribute everything to someone or the other who is not from India. So it's a very typical colonial thing. They just wanted to say that, look, you guys have nothing. It's just people from outside who came here, gave you this, that, and the other. We are the latest. We're giving you civilization. So just accept it and be happy. Accept that you had no genius, no understanding. You just didn't have any wellspring of civilization. And you have to be content with taking what other people from outside give you. And VAK podcast is, well, a crusade, a mission against this kind of thinking. So that is why, chess.
You sure you want to use the word crusade?
Okay, delete, deleted. Absolutely right. Although, Utkarsh, crusades have a lot to do with the spread of chess.
Okay, there we go.
Yes. So they do have, so for the moment, I will retain that. And, it just tells you of my own reading and my own, what can I say, education, that such words and expressions come very naturally to me. Because I've been reading this stuff ever since I learned to read when I was 4 years old or 5 years old or whatever. So this tells you of the way I have been educated as a poor colonized child. For the moment, we will let it stand. So, Utkarsh, this is the story of the introduction of
Hmm.
chess
Hmm.
into Persia. So, if you have
Okay.
any questions about this, then ask me. Otherwise, we'll go on to the other contender.
There's another contender. Okay, who's that?
There is China.
Oh, I thought it would be India. Okay, so we're not. So India's not even a contender here.
India is the
It's
winner. India
yeah,
is
yeah,
at the top of the podium,
but in the mind of the world.
even in the mind of the world.
Okay, okay, cool.
Although, there is also this very sorry contender called Greece, because
Hmm.
at one point of time, all of Europe was very busy trying to explain everything as Greek.
Mm.
So some of those books that you read are nauseating because they'll draw unnecessary and unacceptable and totally actually fairy tale kind of links between everything that's happening in India and take it to Greece. So I will
Mm.
dismiss Greece by just saying that an attempt was made to make Greece the origin of chess, but it was
Fails.
really, really unconvincing. So
Okay.
nobody got it.
Got
After
it.
we talk about China, then I'm going to go on to the real winner of this competition today, which is India.
Okay. All right.
So we go on to China.
Yeah.
So in China, this game is called Shankui. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this Shankui, it doesn't really have that much of a resonance either with Chaturang or with Shatranj. Neither of these. So it's
Mm.
a word which is not even phonetically, kind of close to this. So therefore, they like to say that, well, this is the word itself is different, and therefore, this game originated here. But there's a very, very, what can I say, funny kind of hidden uh, rebuttal to everything that the
Mm.
Chinese say in the word
Mm.
itself. Because what does Shangqi mean? It means game of elephants.
Okay.
And are there elephants in China? Are elephants used for war in China? That's a big no. No.
Mm.
So why was it called Game of Elephants when elephants are not there at all? Why? But
It's like the
well,
dragon. The dragon never existed. I'm just giving you an argument. Just get
no,
this
but
there.
Utkarsh, the dragon is a mythical animal. The elephant is a real animal.
Fair enough.
It's a real animal, and it exists in warfare. It was the ancient tank. Before tanks
Mm.
were there, it was the ancient
Mm.
tank. Okay, so what is the Chinese version?
Mm.
The Chinese version is the first references at kind of the end of the ninth century.
Okay.
And this was in a book called the Shuangkai Lu, which is Tales of Obscure and Peculiar Things. So, well, there you go. Obscure and peculiar game of chess. Now, this is the well accepted one, but there are also other people who say that there is a mention of the Indian introduction of chess at the time of the Han dynasty between the 3rd
Mhm.
century BC and 65 AD.
Mm.
So, some Chinese records do mention that, but that is not accepted by all chess historians. By the
Okay.
way, in Tibet, which was much bigger than China at the time, it's
Mm.
called Chandaraki. So that perhaps you can connect to Shatranj, Chandaraki, maybe, maybe not. So
Okay.
that goes to say that Shankui was not the origin of the game in Tibet. Wherever Tibet got it from, it was not China. The
Mm.
now uh, I'll go back to Kannauj and I'll go back to Harshvardhan. So there was a embassy exchange between Harshvardhan and China, and
Mm.
they took a lot of things with them, and it is assumed that they took chess with them. China then sent back an embassy to Harshvardhan. By that time, Harshvardhan was dead, and so this embassy was attacked by his successors. And then there was a fight, and actually, Connaught for some time was taken over by Nepali Tibet forces. Remember all this China, Nepal, Tibet, all these formed a
Okay.
continuum. We've done all this, we've
Yes.
looked at all
Yes.
this when we looked at Tibet.
Mm.
So, this is something which is accepted
Mm.
that there is this introduction of Indian chess to China called the
Mm.
Game of Elephants. But later, there was an attempt by Chinese scholars to connect it to certain old games of their own. Because,
Okay.
well, they have, you know how the Chinese operate. They have this great sense of honor that we've done everything, we're the Middle Kingdom, so how can it be that something? Didn't we discuss the same thing when we were looking at Kalaripayat and when we were looking at
Yes.
martial arts? They
Yes.
actually, in fact, make up stuff to prove that no, no, this was original and this was ours. Now,
Hmm.
we haven't really talked about the Indian origins as yet, which I will. But
Hmm.
it's an interesting thing that in the Chinese chess, you have, like pawns, rooks, king, bishop, etc. You have
Hmm.
generals, horses, commanders, baggage wagons, cannons, and pawns. Now, baggage wagons were originally chariots. So this gives you a link to the Indian chess because in Indian chess, it was originally infantry, cavalry, then elephants and chariots. These are the four
Hmm.
arms of the
Hmm.
army, as we have had occasion to discuss. And it
Yeah.
was chess is a war game. Chaturang is a war game. So it was this set of elements of the army which were moved around this Ashtapad
Hmm.
or the 8 into 8 board.
Hmm.
So because of the link with Kannauj, because of another very interesting thing, and I will show it to you. I will show you the other thing which makes it very likely that the
Hmm.
Chinese did not really invent this game themselves, but then they took it from somewhere else. Because I will show you
Hmm.
Chinese pieces.
Okay. Is it very different?
Yes, it's very different, and it will let me share. So can you see how these are round and
These look like Chinese
discs?
checkers.
Yes, and they are discs
Yes.
with these things carved on them.
Yes. Yes.
The king, the elephant, the pawn, the rook, etc. These are all carved on these discs. These are not
Hmm.
3D pieces.
Hmm.
So obviously they had this concept of these discs as game pieces. So they got
Hmm.
this new game from somewhere. They carved the new things on these pieces, and it became a new game.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
You see?
Yes.
So this to me is another very big proof of the fact that this has been adapted. They're using
Hmm.
their own game pieces, but they
Hmm.
are using the rules, the imagery, the whole concept of the board, etc., from somewhere
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
So this to me also is another proof of the fact that this game was not Chinese.
So you explained to me the reasons why Persia may be gotten the attribution because of the British colonial agenda. We defeated whatever, right? It had whole thing.
Hmm.
What about China? What motivations would there be for this to become one of the narratives?
Utkarsh, China has been. Do you know also that Buddhism is
But
Chinese? You do you
no,
know
no,
that Buddhism is Chinese?
but that's the last 15 years, right? That China has been
No,
ascendant.
no, no,
Last
no,
20
no.
years. Because China
See,
was in a fair bit of trouble for the last 200 years before the last maybe 30 years.
so within China, such has
Hmm.
always been the narrative.
But within
They,
China is a different case, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, yes. So all this is this understanding of the history and all. It's not
Yeah.
very old. It's not very old.
Okay.
All this and actually, this whole it's in the last 30 years, I would say, that it's
Hmm.
become uh, a very big matter of discussion. And is it Indian? Is it Persian? Is it Chinese? And for people
Okay.
who are interested, there is a trust called Instusen. This Instusen trust does a lot of interesting things,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
has done an excellent program in
Hmm.
launching a particular book on the history of chess. So there is
Hmm.
a very long 2 hour video which will tell you a lot of stuff about all this, how this
Hmm.
whole discussion has started, what's happening to this discussion, and what kind of proofs are needed. So
Hmm.
although we have, as I said, a plethora of proofs from across the world, in India, the
Hmm.
group of enthusiasts and scholars who's working on this is concentrating on Kannauj. They
Okay.
want archaeological expeditions to be launched in Kannauj because they feel that certainly some concrete archaeological evidence, maybe game pieces, boards, etc., will emerge if a
Hmm.
very concentrated effort is
Hmm.
launched
Hmm.
in Kannauj.
Okay.
So this has in fact become a bit of a, that there are these scholars who are the Persian enthusiasts, these are the Chinese ones.
Hmm.
But I think on the whole, because of certain texts which talk about the actual introduction of chess from India, it's
Hmm.
very difficult for these Persian or Chinese enthusiasts to hold their position. What they can do is ignore that text or try to
Hmm.
downplay it somewhere, some way, or something like that. And they do try
Hmm.
that, but that
Hmm.
makes their position that much difficult.
Okay.
So now, if we are, see, I am giving you a very, very amazingly brief and truncated account of these theories
Hmm.
because reams of paper and books have been, I mean, lots of paper has been wasted and many books have been written on this. So
Hmm.
I have waded through that, like I told all the people who are listening, that I've
Yeah.
been doing the wading through for you and I have kind of condensed it and got it for you here.
Hmm.
So now, if these two pretenders to the throne, we
Hmm.
have knocked off these two pretenders to the throne, then we have to move on to the king and queen.
Yes.
So that, of course, my friend, is the Indian origin of chess. What what are the reasons
Hmm.
why we think of uh, Chaturang as the precursor of Shatranj? That I've already told you,
Yep.
because it's there in Arabic texts,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
in so many other different parts of the world. And I'll tell you a bit about how there is a book called The Geography of Chess.
Hmm.
This is by a gentleman called Henry A. Davidson. So he has traced how chess went out from India.
Hmm.
So before I go on to the king and queen proper, maybe I'll just do a short thing to round up our previous discussion about where chess went and how. And for that, I'll just open the world map so that I can, show you visually how it went.
Hmm. Okay.
I'll just open a world map. Can you see it, Utkarsh?
Yes. I can see it.
Okay. So Henry Davidson, when he studied the geography of chess, he has looked
Hmm.
at chess pieces which have been discovered. He has looked at
Hmm.
books which have been written by different people, the games that are played by people in different countries, and he's done a lot of very detailed
Hmm.
research.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
he says that there were four radiations from India.
Hmm.
So my cursor is right now at India. Can you see the cursor? Shall I just make it a bit bigger? So for all those people who are
Yeah,
bad
that's a
at
bit better.
geography, here's India, right? Shall I try and
I
make it
hope you know where
even
that
bigger?
is.
I'll make it a bit big. Is that better?
Okay, it's fine. That's better. Yeah.
Okay. So around the ninth century, it went northeast into China, right? From here, northeast into China. And people, I'd encourage you to see the programs, the podcasts we've done on martial arts, on Bodhidharma, because we've talked, and on Tibet, because we've talked about the different trade routes and the land and sea routes through which things went out from India to China. And you will find a very clear exposition of that in these earlier podcasts. So I will not do it again. But remember that there was this land route like this, and there was a sea route like this, which went all the way like this through Southeast Asia. Okay, so the first one is northeast to China. The second one is southeast into Burma. So Burma is kind of over here. See, Utkarsh, is my cursor visible to you?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so it went southeast into Burma, and then from there into all of this Indochina, which was between the ninth and the 12th century. Then it went westwards into Persia, this side, Persia. This was done in between 600 and 800 of the Common Era. Now, through Persia, etc., 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 it also reached Spain, it reached Byzantium, and it is here that the Crusades come in. So, around this time, the 10th, 11th century, the Christians of Europe and um the Islamic groups of Saladin, etc., they were clashing with each other. But while clashing, they also learned a lot of things from each other. So because of this, this went into Europe. This game went into Europe. You know that there is a in 1008, that is the 11th century, a will has been found written in the battlefield by one Count of Uregal, who was a crusader, who gives details of his chess pieces and who should inherit his chess pieces. So obviously by this time chess was really well established, but according to Henry Davidson, this went before the 11th century. It started between the 6th and the 8th century and it spread over there. Then northwards into Siberia. So Siberia is somewhere roughly around here. So what does that also mean? Russia. What does that also mean? One of the powerhouses of chess. So it went northwards into Russia. This was the 15th and 16th century. And it went through these trade routes via Khorasan and Khazarian. They are somewhere in Central Asia. So it went through these trade routes. So you see China, then Indochina, then westwards and then northwards. So it just radiated everywhere. This was how Indian chess went everywhere. Now, if I keep calling it Indian chess, I have to tell you why I'm doing this. Why am I saying this? Why is it that, do you have a question, Utkarsh?
No, I just wanted to unmute myself so I could ask
Okay,
a question when I want to.
okay, okay, okay.
Not raising the hand. It was just unmuting.
All right. So I showed you
Hmm.
the chess pieces from Lothal. I showed you the chess pieces from Mohenjo-daro.
Hmm.
And we've done many podcasts on the Saraswati Sindhu civilization. Go back and take a look at them. You'll know the dates. You'll know everything about them. So to say that something originated from Saraswati Sindhu civilization means it has roots very, very, very deep inside Indian civilization. These pieces, maybe I should open them again. These pieces, and again, I will give you some very kind of serious, uh, some archaeological
Hmm.
proof, which you may or may not like. I mean, in the sense, you may find it too much. I'm looking for a very nice picture where I had found a very nice picture. No, I can't see it again, so I'll have to open the same one. So it's the same picture again.
Mhm.
So, what do I want to tell you? That this was found in Lothal. This was
Hmm.
found, and just take a look at them in detail. Aren't they looking a lot like chess pieces of today? Even for lay people
Yeah,
like
I can
us,
see the
Utkarsh.
pawn. Yeah, the
Yeah,
pawn, the
yeah, and
tower.
something, yes. So they're looking, and then can you see the squares? The
Yeah,
squares
yeah,
also seem to be the same, although it's broken, so we can't really count how many
yeah,
there were. But
yeah.
the squares also seem to be the same. So these
Mm-hmm.
pieces, pieces are made of terracotta. Then
Okay.
the boards are also made of brick as well as terracotta. This thing that you see,
Mm-hmm.
others were also found, and these are made of
Mm-hmm.
brick as well as terracotta.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is very interesting. So remember, this is the Indus Valley civilization. The bull, very important here. The bull and the
Mm-hmm.
horse. So many of these figures, I'll just show you the sketches so that you can find out more clearly. These are cones, as you can see, castles, as you can see, and they are zoomorphic figures: bull, dog, horse. And I will
Mm-hmm.
now show you some nice sketches of those, if I can. Yes. Can you see this, Utkarsh?
Yes,
Wait, let me make it bigger.
they look familiar. Some of them definitely look familiar.
Okay, so these are sketches of the picture that you just saw, so that it makes it clearer. So,
Mm-hmm.
can you see this? I would say this is a horse.
Mm,
Perhaps this is a dog. Does this one look
mm.
like a dog? I don't know. Wait, wait. And this one, yes. Can you see this one and these two? And imagine a bull with horns.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me make it a bit bigger. A bull with horns.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is again a bull with horns.
Yes.
This number three is a horse. This number
Mm-hmm.
four is a dog. This number
Mm.
five is also a dog. And
Yeah.
these are, of course, these are cones.
Mm.
Wait. Then number six is also a dog. Okay, sorry. I don't think I can see that. Short, thick snout and slit mouth. Anyway, so
Mm.
I'm looking at a certain report. This is the report
Mm.
of S.R. Rao, who was the
Mm.
archaeologist who
Mm.
found these pieces, who found this chess set while he was doing his
Mm.
archaeological excavation in Lothal. And
Mm.
see, he has, I don't want to go into so much detail, although it is very fascinating. Utkarsh, when bulls and horses and dogs were important, they were represented on the chessboard.
Mm. Mm.
Later, in the times of the Mauryans, perhaps, chariots, horses,
Mm. Mm.
elephants became more important. So they made an
Mm.
entry. On this
Okay.
chessboard, there are no elephants.
Mm.
The bull was more important, but you don't find the bull later. So you
Mm-hmm.
had asked me before this, I mean, at the beginning of this podcast about how the rules changed or how the pieces
Mm-hmm.
changed. So these are some of the ways in which I'm showing you how they changed. I want to
Okay.
show you just one more thing. These were the pieces. Now, see, this is a board,
Mm.
different kinds of boards
Mm-hmm.
that have been found in Lothal. So there is absolutely no doubt about the fact that some game of the type of Chaturang
Mm.
was actually played even in the Saraswati Sindhu civilization. Now, why do we take Chaturang, which was
Mm.
played on a Ashtapad board, that is 8 into 8,
Mm.
64 squares, that's Ashtapad, 8 and 8,
Mm.
Asht is 8.
Mm.
So, why is it that we associate it with India? One, of course, is that this 8 into 8, 64, remember 64? 64 arts. 64 is a very important number for India.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
64.
Utkarsh, some form of chess also finds a mention in the 64 arts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this Chaturang means four. It is
Mm-hmm.
based on the four divisions of the army, of the traditional army, the cavalry, infantry, horse, and chariot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
Chaturang is nothing but a war game. So, what is
Mm.
the Indian story about the origin of Chaturanga? As usual, we can go back to the Ramayana and the Mahabharata.
Mm.
Associated with the Mahabharata is the fact that Draupadi was the one. Draupadi, you remember, the wife of the Pandavas,
Of course. Of course.
who started this game of Chaturanga because she wanted to play out the war games and the strategies that her husbands and kinsmen and allies were executing in the field of war.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the same for Ravan's wife Mandodari. She was executing the strategies that her husband actually executed in the battlefield. Don't you find it interesting, Utkarsh, that the origin stories of this war game
Mm.
are associated with women?
Yeah.
They are not associated with men, although these are very, very seriously and in a very focused way, these are war games. It's the
Mm.
king who is the most important. So I
Mm.
find it yet another reflection of the way in which women were on top of every field, everything that you could
Mm.
think of. They were also on top of strategizing for the war. Anybody who's read the Mahabharata will know that
Yeah.
Draupadi strategizes, Kunti strategizes, Tara
Mm-hmm.
strategizes, all of them do it.
Yeah.
Tara is, of course, from the Ramayana. So all of
Mm.
them do it. So this is the Indian origin story of chess.
Hmm.
Now, what are the things that make us think it's connected to India? One is I told you the board, and this Ashtapad board is mentioned in
Hmm.
the Rig Veda. This Ashtapad board is mentioned in the Shatpad Brahman. So it goes back really, really a very long time into the
Hmm.
past and into the roots of Indian history. Now, the king in chess, the king never dies. The king can be taken captive. If the king
Hmm.
is threatened and there's a mate and there's a checkmate, the game ends. You never execute the king. Now, this is part of the thinking, philosophy, and ideology of war, the Hindu ideology of war,
Hmm.
that the king is sacrosanct, never to be
Hmm.
killed or executed. And there's
Hmm.
also the concept of what is called by Europeans just war and what will be called a dharmic war in
Hmm.
India. So, in this dharmic war, you never kill the king.
Hmm.
Okay, soldiers, pawns, etc. Fine. You never kill the king. So these things are associated with Indian philosophy, with the Indian ideology of war. The some Buddhist sources also mention chess, and our good old friend Patanjali, because Panini and Patanjali, while explaining grammar, have explained so many other things to us. So he also the Mahabhashya of Patanjali also
Hmm.
mentions the Ashtapad, and the pieces were
Okay.
called Sar. The soldiers were called Sar.
Hmm.
Now, I just want to give a little bit of a kind of insight over here,
Hmm.
and that insight is that in the 6th to 8th century, there was Banbhatti ki Katha. There is also
Hmm.
a play called Vasvadatta by Subandhu around the same
Hmm.
time. Then
Hmm.
in the 10th, 11th century, there is Manasollas. Manasollas is by King Somdev. When we were doing a podcast on food, I mentioned Manasollas a lot. It's a kind of
Okay.
encyclopedia written by King Someshwar. Now,
Hmm.
in this Manasollas,
Hmm.
there is a part which is a total manual of chess. So that is the 10th century. Now, some people will ask, and after that, you have many chess manuals, you have many, many things which are
Hmm. Hmm.
focusing on chess. But then a lot of people will ask you, what about the intervening period? Why don't we have something before the 6th century? You talk
Hmm.
about the Shatpat Brahman or you talk about the Rig Veda, but what about that intervening period? Before the 6th century, why don't we have any real exact mentions? Now,
Hmm.
that one, of course, is the fact that there are many texts in India which are still lying untranslated, unread, Sanskrit texts, and to say nothing of Tamil texts and texts in other
Hmm.
Indian
Hmm.
languages. But there is a very interesting Tamil ancient game which is called Thayyam. This
Hmm.
Thayyam is played by rural village girls when they have to do something in the while they're farming and in the fields, and they have to sit around and wait, or they have to pass time. Then they play this Thayyam, and this
Hmm.
Thayyam is a kind of absolute reflection of Chaturang. There is no textual mention of Thayyam anywhere. Nobody will write anything about it, but it exists in real life. So you see, there are many things which evidence gatherers have not yet reached. So that could be one reason why there seems to be a bit of a real a textual gap between before the 7th century, because before that you don't have any kind of chess manual.
Hmm.
But I told you that the 64 arts include chess. Now there was a commentator on the Kam Sutra called Jay Mangal. He has given different classifications of games. One of them is Sajiv, and
Hmm.
he includes chess or chaturang in them.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
in some ways, it's not very easy to understand. So we still need more commentaries, or we need more of an insight. We need to understand a little bit more. Also, Utkarsh, regarding you had this question about the rules and about the way has chess changed, etc., etc. So the thing about that is this game could have originated as being played with dice. So Chaturang had these gamesmen, the pieces which were there,
Hmm.
but there
Hmm.
could also have been a dice. So
Hmm.
your moves depend on the throw of the dice. So there is also one theory that that famous dice game, Akshay Krida it's called, which Yudhishthir played with Shakuni. Again, you must be familiar with this one. When they lost their
Of course.
kingdom, they lost their
Yeah.
wife, they lost everything. So there is
Yeah.
one interpretation that that was actually a game of Chaturang. However,
Ah.
some other
But I
commentators
thought it was
say
supposed to be gambling because it was dice.
yes, yes, exactly. So, some of the commentators say that the game progressed very fast. If you read the Mahabharata, then that game is
Mm,
progressing very fast. So, Chaturang cannot move so fast. So, that's
mm,
one argument. The other
mm,
thing is that it seems very clear, or it
mm,
seems not very clear. It seems there is indicative evidence to show
mm,
that
mm.
Chaturang was played with dice. But
Okay.
after there was a kind of clampdown on, gambling as
Mm,
not being a very desirable thing, some of our Dharma Shastras and Dharma Sutras really clamped down very hard on it. The
mm,
dice part was removed and it
mm,
was played without dice so that it was not lumped into that basket of gambling. This is one theory.
mm,
And Utkarsh, very interestingly, in Lothal, where this board and the gamesmen have been found, a dice has also been found.
mm.
So can it be that Chaturang was earlier played with dice and that it was the dice was later removed? Because it has gone through a lot of changes. It has gone through so many changes that sometimes it is difficult to exactly connect
Mm,
everything to the
mm,
past. Now, for
mm,
example, you have the infantry. The infantry is the pawns, they are the soldiers. You
mm,
have the cavalry, then from the cavalry came the knight, what is called
mm,
today in today's chess piece, the knight.
mm,
Indian, the Indian elephant, there were no elephants in the West or no elephants
mm,
in many of the places it went to, so it became the bishop.
mm,
The chariot became the rook.
mm,
Then,
mm,
along with the king, used to be a minister, but that minister became the queen. And that queen became the most important and powerful piece on the board.
mm,
So many, and then I told you how the bull, horse, and dog could have been the more important pieces at the time of the Saraswati Sindhu civilization. And as time passed, and as the war, the battlefield changed, these things would have changed. So today, Utkarsh, I was listening to a commentary on a play by Bhas. Bhas was the Sanskrit playwright of the time of the Mauryans. So he has
mm,
written this play called Urubhangam, which is about the death of Duryodhan on the field of war
mm,
in the Mahabharata. So he describes the field of war as a kind of painting. But you know what words he uses? He uses the words position, place, and he mentions these same words that I have been talking to you about. Elephants, chariots, rook, king, all these are, he is trying to present a picture of the devastation of the battlefield because it's the
mm,
end and the Kauravas have lost. But the
mm,
way he puts it, to me, it sounds really like an echo of the chessboard because he says the positions of all these were there. It was a full picture, and now this rook is dead. Sorry, this elephant is dead. This chariot is gone. This warrior is gone. So there are gaps. So it
mm,
really made me think of a chessboard. So I
mm,
think, Utkarsh, that there is still, in spite of the fact that yes, we have a lot of evidence, the Indian Sanskrit text's evidence has not yet been analyzed properly. That InstuSen video will tell you a lot about this. And
mm,
say a few years ago, I don't know how many years ago, there was for the first time an international symposium on chess in Pondicherry. You can find the proceedings on the internet, people, if you're
mm,
interested.
mm,
So that was
mm,
the time when people are now trying to gather these things together. And so many times, the people who read Sanskrit poetry are zero interested in chess. So they won't
mm.
tell you if there is something related to chess and that. They are
Yeah.
not interested at all. So what you have to do is to actually read all these things from the point of view of getting this information. So there is a new book on the history of chess. It's I think about a year old or 2 years old. It's by C. Panduranga Bhatt and
Mm,
chess enthusiasts, or rather, history of chess enthusiasts. Please get this book and read it. because for the first time, it collects and collates a lot of information from Sanskrit and other language texts in India, as well
Hmm.
as archaeological information. So there is, I think, a lot waiting to be discovered as far as the Indian proof of the Indian origin is concerned. But I hope that what I have said in the past 15, 20 minutes, Utkarsh, does give you some very concrete basis for saying chess is Indian. And I cannot end without talking about the Arthashastra. The Arthashastra has a section on war. It has a section on Vyuha. So do you know what a view? View is a war formation.
Okay.
So where to keep your elephants and
Hmm.
cavalry and
Hmm.
everything so that
Hmm.
you can really attack the
Hmm.
your enemy. So there are many different kinds of viewers which are mentioned in the Arthashastra. And the way you move things around, if you read that, and if you think about the way the game of chess is played, there are very strong parallels. So if since I have read the Arthashastra, I can say that. Now there may be some texts which I have not read, and there could be more parallels and even clearer information in those texts. So that work needs to be done, but I believe I have not read the book myself. That C. Panduranga Bhatta has done a good job of that, a very good beginning. So have I convinced you that at the top of the podium is India?
Seems to be a clear winner as far
Yes,
as this
we've got a
conversation is concerned.
winner. So, Utkarsh, you didn't
Good.
have many questions this time.
No, I think it was more about, you know, I don't know too much about chess. If I knew about the rules and stuff, I would have pestered you with a lot of
I am so
things.
glad you don't because I would not have been able to answer those questions.
No, but I think for the casual or even for the person who's not interested in chess, I think this is a very interesting, just to see the origin, just to see where it came from, to see those old pieces. It's quite interesting to me.
Yeah. Should I just, to round off, just show you some old chess pieces?
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So let me see if I can get some nice old pieces. These are not in any particular order. So I'm just showing you some 8th century
Hmm.
Iranian chess pieces. See, you can see the horse very clearly. This one is the horse.
Yes.
The others are a little, I mean, I am not able to make them out. What does this say? No, it doesn't give. Okay. The next one is, wait, I should show you some nice Indian pieces too. See these? Beautifully made.
Wow. So intricate.
This is from Vijayanagar. So you see the
Hmm.
knight, you see the elephant, there's another knight. The chess pieces
Hmm.
are absolutely beautiful. Actually, chess pieces are kind of, treasures in their own right. Sometimes in
Hmm.
China, they were made of jade
Hmm.
and they
Hmm.
were made of precious metals. And the artistry was amazing. So chess is also a reflection of art.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now, was that a nice short introduction to the history of chess? And this is,
Absolutely.
for me, this is a kind of it's totally inspired by the way in which our Indians are doing so well in chess. So I thought it would be a good idea to go back to how everything started over here. And maybe we are
Hmm.
in for a golden age of Indian chess. Like there have been golden ages of Russian chess, etc., even Chinese.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe
and
we are
I
in.
hope that more people understand usually you need a bit of excitement about something for a lot of
Yes,
people to take it up.
yes,
Cricket had that moment, I think about 30 years ago, after
Yeah,
40 years
in
ago now, after the,
1983. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
hopefully
true.
this will do something similar.
Yes. Yes. So shall
Good.
we close the chapter of this particular aspect of history now?
Absolutely.
So, people, we have not been all that regular, right, Utkarsh? We have not been all that regular. We'll keep trying to be as regular as we can, but also we need some excitement from you. We need some feedback from you. Tell us that we are not just lobbying this into the internet, into the vast space of internet, and we don't get any feedback. So that's disappointing. Give us some feedback. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. And as always, please subscribe. Please press the bell for notifications. And please ask questions. Please give us feedback. That would really be very encouraging for us. What do you say, Utkarsh?
Yep, absolutely. If you want more of this content, the best way is to do some action, which hopefully should not take much time.
Yeah, yeah, yes,
That's the
yes,
best way. Yeah.
yes.
Good.
So we'll sign off now and hope to see you soon with yet another chapter of the History Podcast where we'll unpeel some other interesting layer for you. If there are any common objects, games, anything of which you want to know the origins or of which you want to know the Indian connections, tell us. By the way, Utkarsh, the game Ludo is also from India.
Hmm. Snakes and ladders?
Of course, but of course. So maybe we are doing some stuff on origins like the sitar, etc. So we have this origin series also. We have had the sitar, we had martial arts, now we have chess. So we'll have a bit of an origin series also. Keep it going, make it interesting, and hope to hear more and more from all of you who are listening to the VAK podcast.
All
Namaskar.
right. Take care.